Yo guys, welcome to RenderRam. My name is Vieko, and today I want to show you a texture delighting technique in Photoshop which you can use for your obviously textures. So just for those of you who don't know, delighting a texture pretty much means that, to create a flat lighting scenario on the texture so that you don't get, so that you don't have one parts that are lighter, one that are, darker, because that's going to create a bad, tiling repetition. So I'm going to show you this on these three textures. So it's this one, and probably this one if I have the time. But first of all, I just want to say a huge shout out to a very good friend of mine, Nejc Škufca, who showed me this trick and it works like freaking charm. Also, one very important note. I use this for fabrics. Tried it on wood, it didn't work that great. So try it wherever, but for the fabrics, I know it works. So this is the thing. Let's kind of start with this. So I'm just gonna select a chunk of this fabric to, let's say, like this. I'm gonna go to image crop, and now there's a very cool feature in Photoshop called pattern preview. So you click on that, and it pretty much shows you how a tiled how a tiled texture looks like. And as you can see, we do have some bad repetitions. By the way, when you are in what's it called? Oh, pattern. So when you're in pattern preview, one thing that you can also do, so look at this. I took a clone stamp. So this is my original image here. So I took a clone stamp here, and you can pretty much paint out, like edges so that you can create a nice seamless texture. But anyhow, this is the technique. So your bottom layer or your main layer here, clone it 2 times. I'm gonna call the bottom one reference. This is pretty, so this one, I'm not gonna, the only purpose of this bottom layer is so that, once I create this texture, that I can compare it with the original, nothing else. So we're only gonna be working on this layer and on this layer. And for this kind of scenario, I'm gonna call this one a bottom layer, and I'm gonna call this top layer. So on the bottom layer, go to filter, blur, average. So blur average pretty much averages out the color of the image that it sees, and it's this color here. Now on the top one, go to blending modes and choose a linear light, and now set the opacity to be 50%. And now go to filter, other, high pass. Now, with the high pass, you need to kind of determine what pixel value do you need here. But get this, if I zoom out and if I go here, the higher that I go, you can see the worse the kind of the repetition becomes. But the lower that I go, it kind of gets better and better and better and better. You don't want to go too low, like up to here, because you're just gonna pretty much flatten out your whole image. So you want to lower it just enough so that you preserve maximum details, and that pretty much the image results in a flat looking visual. So this is the thing. I'm gonna lower it down, lower it down, lower it down. Okay, so this, as you can see, already looks like very, very flat. One thing that you can notice is the inside pretty much looks very flat, but on the borders, you can see that there is, some funky business happening there. And those borders, that's all because of the high pass. Now, I don't kind of reduce the radius here so that I also remove that, because it's just an overkill to do. So what I do in these scenarios, I pretty much either crop the image on a little bit on the inside just to kind of, kill those parts, or I just use clone stamp and just, fix that tiny border there. But take a look at this. So I'm gonna increase my radius, I don't know, up to here. So like I said, you want to go down just enough so that it, works. Click OK, and now get this. I'm gonna zoom in. First comparison, original texture with the reference image. So I'm gonna turn off these 2 layers. We get this. So as you can see, it pretty much delighted the entire texture. And now when it comes to these borders, like I said, you can either use, some clone stamp, and oops, I need to collapse these 2 images. So you can either use some clone stamp, and just fix it like this, or, if you're lazy and your kind of image allows it, you can just do a selection a little bit on the inside, go to image crop. And now when you go to view, pattern preview, look at this. You got a completely clean texture that's, you know, pretty much ready to go into your software. And like I said, it works like charm. So this is the original texture, delighted texture, original, delighted. It's like I said, it works like freaking charm. Like this technique saved me so many times. Let me show you this. So here, I'm just gonna create a selection of this boucle, go to image crop, and I'm just gonna go to view pattern preview. Okay, so I'm gonna duplicate it 2 times. On the bottom one, go to filter, blur, average. On the top one, just set it to be linear light, opacity 50%, and just go to filter, other, high pass. And now the same thing, you need to play with the values, right? So let's go to the top one. So you see what happens. We are getting these, you know, bad repetitions. So just lower it just, you know, just enough so that those the repetitions are gone. I would say something like this. And in this case, I'm just gonna do a slight crop in image crop. And now let's see what we got. View pattern preview. There you go. You got a pretty much perfectly delit texture. Now, I'm gonna do the same thing on my third example. So on this one, I'm just gonna go up to here. You know what, so usually I would probably, you know, remove this, but for the sake of this, I'm just gonna keep it like this. So image, crop, let's see how this one looks like in the pattern preview. Oh yeah, this one also has, you know, repetition issues. So just double clone. On the bottom one, filter, blur, average. On the top one, linear light, opacity 50%, filter, and go to other, high pass. And now just zoom out just so that you can clearly see what's happening. And yeah, let's start with, oops. Let's start with, okay, so this is not good, not good, not good. Okay, yeah, this relatively works, even here if we count in the little crop. So yeah, let's try, you know what, I'm just gonna try to keep it a little bit higher. Let's try with this. Okay, so we got that, and now I'm just gonna do a selection on the inside, image crop, and now let's see. Look at this. I mean, yeah, like there are some things, you know, like there is a difference here, but you know, this is now a thing that you just need to kind of fix it somehow. But you know, when it comes to delighting it, you know, you're pretty much done. So look, if I turn these 2 off, boom, you got a nicely delit. Oops, you got a nicely delit image, and yeah, that's pretty much the technique. I love it to death. But like I said, I'm using it only for fabrics. I tried it on wood, it didn't work, but I believe it could actually work on like concrete maybe. I don't know, try it for yourself. And yeah, first of all, Nejc, thank you for sharing this. This is an amazing find. And as usual, thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Bye.